Welcome to the Barden Young Tech series. My name is Catherine Drysdale and I lead the Projects, Transformation and Change practice here in Barden.
So today I'm talking to Jack Murphy, who recently won Graduate Employee of the Year with Gradireland and is a data scientist in Musgraves. We are going to explore his thoughts on AI, what tech has given and taken away from us, along with other topics. Welcome to Barden's Future of Tech podcast. How are you doing today, Jack?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Delighted to be in the Metropole.
I know, it's fab, isn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. And as I was saying earlier off air, somewhere that Musgrave is actually quite connected to. They started one of their original distribution centres or shops here nearly 150 years ago.
Wow,
so
full circle moment. Circle moment. We didn't even realise that when we were booking it. So what has technology given and taken from your generation, do you think?
So yeah, I think it's given us a lot. We can connect with anyone. I can talk to any of my friends in Australia anytime I want. I can tap my phone wherever I want. But I think there is a double-edged sword to this. Notifications are always on now at the moment. Phones are out. You go to a concert, everyone is filming it, maybe not so present. And that's a difficulty too, because it's just so consuming. So I think it's probably something we can manage ourselves, but there's definitely more good than bad.
Do you think that's going to change maybe over time, where we're moving away from being always on, as they say?
I think so. Like, you can see it now even with remote work and stuff. Like, the boundaries are starting to be put in of, you know, logging off on time, whatever time that is for you, flexible working. But also, I think health and wellness wave in general, you can see it across the board. People getting out for runs, coffees, walks in the morning, sauna, swimming. That really big health and wellness wave is probably going to come maybe in line with trying to stay off your phone, not being connected to social media all the time.
It's the negative sides of it as well. You can see that with the younger generation coming up as well, where their tendency to be on phones quite a lot. What's your hope for technology in the next decade?
I just hope that we don't waste it. Like, we have everything at our fingertips. You can build anything you want or create anything you want. So I really just hope we don't waste the kind of opportunity we're given societally. But on top of that, we probably need to democratize the access to data and to those technologies, you know, leave everyone be involved and be a part of the process. And that's quite a difficult thing to do. Easier definitely to say than do, but it's probably something we're very conscious of in data science, where you need to be able to take a step back from the numbers and see the big picture at times. You know, it's not always just a number or quantitative different thing. And it sounds kind of odd coming from a data scientist, but data science is an art as well. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but definitely something to work on. Engaging
with data requires an organisational cultural shift. What's your thoughts on that?
So, as a data scientist, I love building models and solving the technical problems, but where the real success is when we get non-technical people buying into what we're doing, understanding and trusting what we're doing as data scientists. They're not interested in model features or neural nets or anything of that nature. They want clear answers and simple visualizations to come along with that. And as long as they understand the concept loosely, that's enough. But when they see that there's clear decision-making power and we help them make better decisions, that's when that clicks for a non-technical or business-facing user. So if we take answering a question from a Musgrave perspective for that, let's say, can we increase our sales by investing more in our promotional offers? We need to think about that from a data perspective, but also from the business perspective. And we could run a regression and maybe look at what does the halo effect of all of our products run. But the business user isn't going to care about how a regression works or what the algorithm does. They just need to understand, okay, I can make a data-led decision here of these products can help our customers get a better value, help Musgrave make more money, and help our retailers be more profitable. And from that, when you start to see people saying things like, look, let's not introduce our own bias here, let's not go with our gut. What does the data say? What's the data telling us? That's the real win for us as a team, because that's when you start to see people buying into a mindset shift. We're not just helping one or two analysts do their job better. We're changing the way that a team thinks. And that's how you change at scale. You know, 41,000 people, I think, in Musgrave. That's the only way that we're going to be able to help that.
That's interesting, that topic just around the perception of the data team. I've seen it myself with a finance background where, you know, the data team there to resolve the problem that we have or the many problems that we have. Do you think the perception of the data team has changed in the last couple of years
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say so. But it's probably down to the data team to change it a lot. You need to show value before you can get people trusting in you. People aren't just going to give you a big, massive project because you're the data team.
Yeah.
We've had to do a lot of work over the years of building trust of, okay, maybe you take a couple of small things first and show someone, look, we can help you do this better, and you get the big card after. But it's really starting to move into more of the collaborative space. We need to be aligned with the commercial side of the business.
Yeah.
So we sit at the table with the business users and say, okay, what's our goal? Blend their experience and our ability to do the quantitative data side, and you get a way better, more valuable product that's actually driving something on the revenue line as a result. And we're held accountable too for that, I think, where typically there's probably more of the kind of this is nice to have cool thing a couple of years ago. Now it's what's the ROI on the data work that you're doing, and if it's not value driving, why are you doing it?
Yeah. So I think more a shift from being in the room rather than working in a silo and coming back and delivering. And I think the risk there is that if you do that work in silo, you may not be actually still resolving the problem, the original problem, because things can change very, very quickly in a commercial business, especially one in fast moving consumer goods. I have actually interestingly seen some articles and some clients we've worked with pausing the transformation agenda to focus on data. So you've probably seen that as well, right? And I just think that's a really significant shift, because I think with the emergence of AI, the thing is, I need to get on that AI. What can we use in finance or in other areas of the business that we should be using because other people are using it? And if we're not using it, are we missing out? To the companies who are actually taking the bold step to pause, to speed up. So you're pausing and you're saying, there's no point in putting in other AI or technology, generative AI solutions if the data is not robust enough.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting topic. But I don't know, what's your thoughts on that, or have you experienced that?
Yeah, no, that was really good summary of it, to be honest. But it's funny, people are very happy to say things years ago of garbage in, garbage out, but now it's like you can't just talk the talk anymore, you have to walk the walk, which is hard when you have to pause. Here's all these shiny AI tools that could drive ridiculously high efficiency, but the data going into them is the problem in a lot of cases. And look, that's going to be natural across any organisation that gets to a big enough scale. You're going to have legacy systems from years ago, and it's not possible to keep up with the pace of transformation these days. But there's kind of two parts to it, like of you need to save that efficiency first, which is what you're going to do. But the data helps you make better decisions outside of efficiency. AI tools can give you way more speed and all these hours, but if you've poor data, you're just going to fill that time with fixing more data problems and not really driving anything for the business. Whereas what you want is save the hours because you've good data, save all of these hours on efficiency and actually focus on commercial outcomes as a result. Spend more time in the business use cases than trying to churn out and clean data. That 80% of your time being spent cleaning data, sort of data science thing.
And I think you'd mentioned that when you were talking to Heather around, if you can't trust the data in a P&L, for example, well, then it's all. So if you've used AI to generate something and it contributes to the generation or the creation of the P&L, like if there's no trust in that data, that's a massive issue. And I do think, and I know yourself and Heather discussed this in a little bit of detail around the perception of, say, risk and the risk team and governance, right? I definitely think that's shifting as well. It's not just oh God, here we come. They're going to ask us to tick boxes, or like the audit function as well in organisations. It is there to protect the data of our customers, of our retailers, of our end customers. So I'd imagine that's a big
100%
area of focus in Musgraves as well with any of the projects, and that shift to being similar to your relationship actually with the business. It's partnering with the risk and governance function to make sure we minimise and don't have any risk to our data.
But especially because there's different focuses there, so we need to learn from our governance team, but you can't be the poacher and the person protecting it. So as data scientists, we have to work with the team that are focused on the governance, because speed of business transaction and getting out value doesn't always align with governance, even though it would be nice to do all of it beforehand, but quite commonly it comes as an afterthought in most businesses. But there is this stigma of like, oh, the DPO team are going to be red tape, or any of the IT. They're not at all. Like they're actually coming in and you're like, thank God they told us all this stuff before we went and did 10 weeks of work to realise that we're doing something that's over the line.
Yeah.
And the risks are so high now because it's really easy to deploy facing a customer. Like think of Super Value Centre, even just say our retail brands, not any of the others. You could be putting something onto someone's phone straight into their mobile transactions there through a Real Rewards or Frank and Honest tapping your coffee, something like that. It's so easy to deploy into those systems with machine learning because they're already existing.
Yeah.
So if you're not thinking about those things, or we operate in Republic of Ireland and in Northern Ireland, completely different rule sets because of Brexit. Very easy for someone on the business side to not even think about, oh, there's actually different legalities there, because they only think about how do we make more money for our retailers, make more money for Musgrave, help customers have more value.
Yeah.
You need somebody that's guarding, lads, you can't be doing that, it's illegal in England, or the rules in the EU are different. You have to have someone looking after that stuff so that you get, I suppose, held accountable to what you're doing. Because it's not reasonable for someone to know the ins and outs of all of that stuff if you're a business user.
No, absolutely. Look, you're there to solution for the business, but it's about making sure that you're doing it in the way. I think it's a challenge though, because AI is emerging so quickly. There's different regulatory requirements depending on the business sector that you're in, right? If you're in financial services, you're in technology, you're in fast moving consumer goods where you have a lot of customer data, sensitive data. So I think it's the challenge of, depending on the sector that you're in, things are moving so quickly, but it's definitely partnering with those parts of the business in order to make sure there isn't an increased risk, right, for sure. So what are your thoughts on AI tools such as ChatGPT, Copilot and DeepSeek?
They're amazing tools, but not without their downsides. I think we probably correlate being highly articulate to being highly intelligent as humans, and that's how AI tools are built. So supreme confidence irrespective of their accuracy. And that can be a danger, but there's probably kind of two key problems with that. One is trust, and the other is how we think about things as we move forward. So with the trust piece, everyone is trusting LLMs because they can create such fancy, coherent outputs at a really, really high pace. But the consequence of that is that you have a lot of unvalidated, complex spaghetti kind of code going into something that's probably supporting a business decision. So what you have there is people with limited data or software experience now have unlimited coding capabilities. And that's fantastic. But there are problems that come with that. The code is going to break down at some point, and what you could end up with is a lot of stitched together code where people don't understand how the full system works, or maybe don't know how to go looking at the errors that are being caused within that. And that could be in a business critical facing product and cause major issues down the line that you're not maybe set up to support or to deal with at that time. So take a simple example of that, ChatGPT or any of the other similar large language models that people work with, like Claude or whatever. They will often recommend hard coding your API keys into a notebook if you're asking them for a solution on something. And that's like the software equivalent of putting your credit card details on Facebook. Really dangerous. But if you don't work in a sphere where that's something you should know already, and you look at an output and it looks really smart, it looks like things I've already seen before. When I click the cell, it runs. How are you to know any better other than that this is a working piece of code, not that this is actually an extremely dangerous thing and my API keys shouldn't be inside a notebook? That's not an unrealistic mistake to make if you aren't working in those spaces. So it can be really dangerous if you're not careful with it.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I do think companies are getting better at that though.
And the second part is probably that what makes strong data scientists or machine learning engineers is your ability to think. So when you're building a robust solution or trying to fix the software issues within that, it's kind of a combination of your intuition, your curiosity, and your ability to critically think that's going to help you to solve them. But companies are not really hiring that many juniors anymore at the moment, and any that are getting hired are probably relatively reliant on large language models. But if you're not learning from the simple mistakes and getting the experience of those issues and solving them, and you're not being taught to think kind of creatively and really work on problem solving, in 10 years' time, when all of the mid or senior level engineers have moved on, how are juniors going to be expected to come in and fix a complex problem in a customer-facing machine learning model in production when you haven't even had the experience of the small stuff or being taught how to think about those problems in an effective manner? That's a huge issue as well that needs to be considered going forward.
I actually think that's probably I saw an article recently with some of the big fours where they're reducing down their through the milk round, where you go in and you train as a trainee accountant and you're going up, and they're removing some of the intake through the use of AI. So, and I'm like, but the skills that you learn in those early days is so critical to how you conduct yourself in business, etc., which is what a lot of people tap into Big Four. So, like with the shift you're talking about there, have you even seen that shifting more in the last 2-3 years? Where, which is kind of, I suppose, a really key point, because it's happening now so quickly. So shifts that might have taken 10, 20 years over the last 30, 40 years are happening within a 12-month, 24-month period now. Like are we thinking about the repercussions, like what you said? Are we building the right skill set for people that they actually do need in their future careers by removing that layer and saying, we'll just replace it with AI? It's kind of a...
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like there's kind of two parts to it. One is, are you allowing people to learn the ropes? Like a HR department is another similar example to what you said there. If you go into HR, you can't just jump straight into a really difficult kind of, employee-facing situation. You probably start out in a more administrative role where you start to learn policies, start to learn through a service desk or something like that. Okay, kind of get to learn the ropes. And then you can start to be pulled into the more senior stuff, whereas now what's being asked is to jump straight in, and that's no good for anyone. No. It's not good for the people that have the problem, and it's not good for the person that doesn't have the experience to solve it. The reality is those technologies are going to be different in 10 years again. It's, can you problem solve, can you learn quickly on the fly and work collaboratively within a team? That stuff's never going to change. The technology probably will in 5, 6, 7 years,
or
with
less.
the pace that we're going now. Could be a month. ChatGPT 5 could come out and knock 10 or 15 kind of hot things out of the water. So, like, it's really short thinking in that sense, because the key things at work are working with people. There's so much experience inside in our business, I find, and being able to leverage that is much more useful for us than being the most technical in a really specific situation. I think it's a challenge across most industries, to be honest, and most professions. Just having read a couple of articles on it recently, it's a worrying trend if we don't tackle it. But it's probably a bit about the colleges as well, maybe tackling that as part of the programs. So that this is how we engage, and we that emotional intelligence piece, like, because you can come in with all of the skill sets, but culturally you might not be the right fit for the organisation. So I definitely think it's a challenge. So I think probably one key idea on that is that when you're hiring people, train them and teach them to think effectively and encourage their curiosity. Because what you're going to end up with then is a lot more people who know how to solve problems, and they'll naturally understand your systems end to end way better and nip things in the bud much quicker than what they would if they didn't get the chance to explore that curiosity or know how to problem solve. I think another thing is probably production standards. Definitely from a data science perspective, like data science and machine learning probably needs to learn from software engineering practices a lot more. It's not good enough to kind of have things sitting in a notebook anymore. You need to deploy everything, and that requires a much higher standard of production grade code. And we'd see that a lot in Musgrave now, where there's a huge shift into making sure that things adhere to our production guidelines, having peer reviews on all of the code that's leaving development, or even going into testing environment. And we even have, there's solutions that you can build to that don't require people all the time either. We have an agentic AI solution for reviewing all of our code as it leads development for efficiency, duplication, things like that. So there definitely is just a whole piece on upping the standards in data science to meet some of the software engineering practices at writing production grade code and building robust, scalable systems. And I think lastly is probably just to think really carefully before you move. Like, speed isn't the only deciding factor anymore. You need to be able to build robustly, scalably, because everyone can do things fast now with the AI tools that are available. So do you move fast in the right direction? That's a much more difficult question to answer. So just thinking carefully about where you want to go, what's your goal, and how do you ensure that you build that in a scalable way, whether that's error logging or metrics, things like that, error handling. Those are probably things data scientists don't think about too much, but now that deployment is such a large focus, it's much, much more important to think about what you're doing first.
Currently, what's your why? if in terms of your day to day, what drives you when you go into work in the morning and you go, you seem very passionate in the role that you're in. So what's your why, if you were able to maybe summarise that?
From a commercial perspective, I probably do a commercial and a personal because they're separate. From a commercial perspective, I would say it's just so interesting to be in a business that's really close to, you can see your changes. We're not building models in the back end and not seeing them. We're actually impacting customers that are literally a stone's throw away from most of the communities in Ireland. So when we're working with product teams or with strategic teams, you're seeing those changes being made in a SuperValu, Centra, in a wholesaler. Yeah. That's one part of it. And I suppose even a step back from that is that it's strategic and commercially relevant. We're in the right rooms, being included in those decisions and having to work, which is a challenge for us at times, of making sure that we're thinking about the commercial part. So that's probably the way in terms of, and we just, obviously there's those pieces of just getting to work on difficult problems, getting to be creative, and we have a lot of creative license to go after things, as opposed to having a really set out piece. They'll come and say, look, we think we have a problem here, or we might come to them and say, we think we can help you with this. And they'll give us a decent bit of carte blanche to say, okay, whatever way you technically think this can work, fire away, no matter what that is, as long as it's helping us with the outcome after, that's okay. From a personal perspective, probably just, I have a high interest in data science. I think it's interesting from a problem solving perspective, critical thinking, but been really lucky to have a lot of opportunity put forward for me, the amount of sacrifices that other people make for you that you wouldn't even think of, whether that's sport or in your family life and things like that. It would be a shame not to use all of those things. I know a coach we had when we were younger said something along those lines, Keith Ricken. He's a psychologist, so he's he's a psychologist inside MTU, so really good for coming out with one-liners and stuff like that when we were being coached by him. But he kind of said a piece around, I won't go too deeply into it, but he had a piece around when we were playing football of if you should never be struggling for motivation if you just think about the sacrifices that other people make for you, whether that's close to you or not. But your parents driving you all around the country all the time. But then there's other people, there's someone lining the pitches and filling the water bottles. They're never getting thanks for what they're doing, and you get to be the person scoring the goal and the hero, and everyone thinks that you're amazing when you get the opportunity to be those 15 people. And that kind of translates to data science a bit of, you get to come in with this solution that's really cutting edge, and everyone thinks, wow, these guys are delivering something really cool. But there's loads of work going on in the background that people don't get recognized for. So you kind of just have to appreciate that you're in a position to do a lot of really interesting kind of game-changing things, and to appreciate that as a way to help people make better outcomes, I guess, for Musgrave, all in all.
No, that's really good. I love that. I love the sport, the sports psychology. I think you can see when people have played professional sport, which I know it's non-professional GA, but I've been at talks with, be it rugby coaches or GA coaches, and some of the things they say, it just really resonates. And it's even that resilience in a work environment and leaning into that. You won the Grad Employee of the Year with Grad Ireland recently. So what did that mean to you?
I was delighted. I think just happy because of the work I put in and some of the stuff that we've gone after, but also just really happy for my team, because Musgrave, and especially our data science team, invests so much time in our younger kind of colleagues. There's a lot of the kind of mid to senior people are really focused on our personal growth and ensuring that we can kind of dictate our own careers to some degree and get the experience that we want. And they spend so much time not just problem solving with us, but really looking to teach. And I really appreciate, I suppose, the time that they've put in, because, you can't run these roads on your own. There's always someone who's a couple of years ahead of you who's been down the same path. So having people to rely on and lots of mentors has been massive for me. But really, really proud and delighted to be representing Musgrave.
I love, because you're talking about the team, but it was an amazing achievement for you as well individually, right? But it's very humble the way you've attributed back to the team. Okay, perfect.
Thanks a million, Jack, for your time today and the wonderful insights shared. I'm looking forward to sharing this conversation when the podcast goes live on LinkedIn. And for everyone listening, stay tuned for the next episode in our Barden Future of Tech series.